Hey guys, welcome to Mommy Mia. This is our first episode. We're excited to have you join us. As you can see, we are joined by some co-stars today. Miss Amelia is a little fussy, so I'm holding her. And then up here we have one of the other fur babies, Zeus, as promised. So, Lindsay, how are you feeling?
I'm actually pretty happy about this right now. My kids are with their Nana, and I'm getting an afternoon of hanging out with you and Miss Amelia, so I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. Yeah, as you guys know, as moms, we're approaching summer. I know my child just got out of school this past week, and yours are out too, right?
Yeah. And is it bad that I'm already counting that I want them to go back in how many days?
They can help you around the farm.
Yeah, they have been working from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed because otherwise they're arguing nonstop about the most insane things. You didn't shut the door all the way.
They say that if siblings argue and fight, that it means they love each other. And if they argue and fight in front of you...
Yeah, and I read somewhere that if they're fighting and bickering constantly at home, that it means that they feel comfortable at home. So my kids must be really comfortable.
See, I don't have to worry about that. I just have to worry about the 12-year-old, attitude that I get. Like, the preteen angst is already, happening with Nat. It's like, the other day, Casey said, one thing to her, and you would have thought, a demon came out of her. She's just like, what? And I'm like, you need to watch your attitude, young lady, because I'm like, she's at that age, and I don't know if Gabe is like this because they're the same age or not, but it's like, they know, they're just so much smarter than you think. And I know it just gets worse because my sister, my nephew, Jeremiah, is almost 18, this year actually, in October, and at that age, you know everything. You're ready to face the world and conquer everything. So
the sad thing is I still remember being young and thinking why is everybody so stupid? I can do my own thing.
I still feel I'm not old though.
Yes, and now though I see my son when I'm getting on him about doing something. My oldest Gabe will look at me, and then in my mind I'm thinking he's looking at me why are you so ridiculous? And I'm just looking at him just do what I asked the first time.
Natalie, she just, first and foremost, she's one of those quick comebacks, you know what I mean? So,
Gabe's that way. It drives me crazy. I'm like, am I proud or
she got me the
annoyed?
other day. I can't remember what she said, but it was something about me being slow because I was walking around and acting like I was going to leave her behind and run away. And she was like, you can't run. She was like, you're old. It's something about you have to go to the chiropractor because your back might break. I was like, shut up.
Yep. Yeah. Gabe loves to tell people that now that he's stronger, he's like, my mom, what's she gonna do? He's like, she's gonna have to come up behind me and surprise attack me. I'm like, yes, it'll be 3 hours after an argument and I will just snipe him from behind and choke him out from behind because now he is stronger than I am and he's about as tall as I am. So he knows if I really want to snatch him up, it's gonna be tough. So.
Well, Natalie, she keeps reminding me on a daily basis, she's almost as tall as I am. And I'm like, I'm not very tall. I'm 5'3", so it's not quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. Gabe hit 5'2" at the end of, the end of school. They measured him, and he was 5'2". And I was like, I'm 5'3", next
You're gonna be
year,
looking up at him.
I don't know how I'm going to handle that.
Well,
how do you look up at somebody and yell at them?
Italian women have done
I do
it
it
for
all.
decades.
I guess I have been, with my 6'4" husband for the last 16 years.
Exactly.
It comes pretty easily.
Well, and then today I had that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm actually a new mom outside of just being, a mom of a preteen, which is already crazy enough. But I was I dropped Nat off at her basketball camp. She's doing 3 days of that, and she of course left her water bottle. And I think I told you this a little earlier, but basically, you're torn in between, do I take the water bottle into her and leave the baby in the car because I'm going to be a quick second, but I've never been in this building. So I'm like, it could be a minute, it could be 10 minutes as I wander around aimlessly. So I was like, do I let her just fend for herself and hope that they have a water fountain.
Right.
But it's, almost 90 degrees today. So I'm like, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to
let me haul in the carrier.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't want to leave her in the car with the key. Like, I was like, I'll just leave everything in here and just lock the doors. I'm like, well, if I leave her in here and the car is running, that's bad. If I leave her in here with my purse and it's a push start and my keys are in the purse, not a good look. If I leave her in here even with the window down, still not a good look. So you're just like, okay, let me just haul everything.
Yeah.
So the challenges of a newborn amazes
now
me.
Now she's just cuddled up on you with her eyes open, looking like, talking about me.
Absolutely. So, for those of you who haven't, watched our self-introduction, we kind of introduce ourselves a little bit. But Amelia is 6 weeks today. Or not today, 6 weeks as of Saturday. Yeah. Almost 7 weeks. And I will say, it amazes me the things that have changed since having my oldest. And then, you forget things, right? For me, I don't remember being anxiety ridden. Maybe it was because I was young and I don't want to say dumb, but I mean, with your first one, even if you read everything, you still don't know. But I'm like, every little thing, she cries. I'm like, what's wrong? Yeah. She has a poop outside of her, outside of what I think it should be. I'm freaking out, and her pediatrician probably hates me because I feel like I'm calling about every little thing.
It's
but I'm
for your own mental health though, to make sure,
It really is, and I mean, it's just one of those things for me. It's I already have anxiety, so that essence of, are you breathing? Right. You're too quiet for too long.
Right.
You have so many people who are coming to you and they tell you their own advice. I can't tell you how many people are wake them up every 2 to 3 hours or 3 to 4 hours to feed them. But on the flip side, I've heard people who are don't wake a sleeping baby.
Yeah, exactly.
So we as moms are constantly flooded with information, and you're just I don't know what's right or wrong. So you just have to do what you feel best.
That meme I always is the one where it's behind every awesome kid is a mom who thinks she's screwing it up. And I think that is so true. I know that when mine were born, it didn't matter if it was my first one or my second one. I was so ridden with anxiety. That's why I didn't want to have any more kids. Now I had other issues of why I couldn't have more kids, but the anxiety was so awful for me. Having anxiety as just on the normal day-to-day, and then throwing a newborn in it or being pregnant, that's a whole new kind of anxiety. And I remember thinking are they breathing? Are they breathing correctly? Is the belly moving too much? And there's so many things that it literally kept me up at night. And now it's as they get older, it's all new anxiety. I was having irrational, I don't even think it's irrational, but I'm thinking about Gabe driving a car in a few years. And I literally am that anxiety's already getting to me, and I'm this is not
you just
okay.
need to enjoy them now. And that's the thing for me. So you mentioned being anxious during, not only when they're this little, you forget the anxiety, especially when they're 11, 12 years old, and I'm doing it all over again. I'm is it because I'm more experienced and I'm more afraid of not afraid of the world, but there's so many things that happen, and as moms, it's instinctive. You want to protect your kids, but there's things outside of our control that we can't, in essence, protect them from.
Anything, exactly.
So for me, the anxiety during pregnancy too. I mean, when you first find out as a woman, I mean, it could go from a range of emotions. Some people are super excited. Some people are, they've been trying forever, right. And it's that sense of relief. Some people, it's that sense of, oh, this is exciting, but the anxiety of it all starts flooding in because so many things can go wrong during pregnancy. Oh, did you spit up a little on me? She might have. But for instance, the anxiety that I have faced was are they going to have any issues? Yeah. Mentally, physically, are they developing properly? Especially in the first trimester, as we all know, that's the most volatile period. And it's that feeling of, am I going to make it through my first trimester, my second trimester, my third trimester? When the baby's born, is there going to be any complications to the baby or myself?
Right. When
I come home, am I going to have the support system? Those anxieties build and build and build. And then when the baby's here, you're like, are they eating enough? Are they sleeping enough? Are they sleeping too much? Like, they haven't had a bowel movement in a day, and like for the past 3 weeks, they've been having one every day. Is that normal?
Right.
Like, but
I remember when I found out I was pregnant, the flood of anxiety that hit me was instantaneous. Like, as soon as I saw, you know, unfortunately for me, I was in denial the first time I took a pregnancy test. So the second time I took a pregnancy test to confirm it, it was actually like 8 tests that was just dipped in a, you know, red Solo cup that I peed in to make sure. But it was like, you know, the positive. The last 2 were the digital readout, and it was positive. And immediately, as soon as I saw that, it was real in my mind. And then I had this anxiety of, not only am I going to be a good mom, is everything going to be okay? If something does happen, can we make it through? Do I have that support? My biggest thing, my very first thought as soon as I saw that positive was, how in the world am I supposed to give birth?
Right.
Like, that anxiety of giving birth, and then turn around and do it again for a second one, it was even more anxiety, because it was like, okay, I know the complications that I faced the first time. This time, I'm not, you know, I'm not just leaving a husband behind. I'm leaving a husband and a 3-year-old.
Right.
So it's like, if something were to happen, this new anxiety now I have others that they need me. They need mom to be around for a while. And so that created, you know, even more anxiety on top of it. And it just snowballs. As a mom, we have so much to worry about on a daily basis that it's truly what keeps us up at night, is thinking about all the could haves and what ifs, and I hate that.
I do too. I mean, and even, you know, you mentioned giving birth, that is an anxiety in and of itself.
It's
and
terrifying.
The first time you're anxious, you're nervous, you're just like, how does my body even do that? We know, but we don't really know. Even after having 2, I still don't really know. But for me, it's like, I remember when I told my mom when I was pregnant with Natalie, I was in my 20s. I told her in the back seat of her own car as we were driving home from her work, because we were doing
backseat because you didn't want her to be able to reach you.
Right, and I wasn't young by any means. I was in the backseat of her car because my car was in the shop or something that day, and she let me borrow her car when she was working. And I came and picked her up. So I actually had my friend Jen with me, and Jen sat in the front seat. I made her switch with me. I was like, here, you sit up front so my mom can't strangle me.
She can't kill me if I'm sitting behind her.
I mean, I think, you know, my mom was, you know, moms are moms, and it depends on your age, and I'm her baby girl. So it was like, for her, she was cool about it. She was just like, tell me and your dad at the same time, like, basically. Yeah. And then, of course, with this last one, she was super excited because me and Casey had been trying for 3 years. But, I mean, as you know, like, from a pregnancy story, I mean, I had actually found out I was pregnant with Jen, and it was her fault that I even took a test. I didn't think I was at the time, and when I took it, I was just surprised and told my mom and dad, and I remember telling my sister even, hey, you know, I'm having a baby, and she's like, oh, really? What are you going to do about that? Not that she was implying anything, but I was like, I guess I'm just having a baby. I'm going to be a mom. But then, in addition to that, finding out I was pregnant with Amelia, it was a different sense. It was like, you know, I'm excited. We've been trying for a few years, but it also was kind of a shock because we had been trying for over 2.5 years. Yeah. So for me, it was like, it's not going to happen. I've came to peace with that. I actually had already had my appointment scheduled to get my birth control back in. And then I found out that I was pregnant because Casey on a whim was like, hey, you haven't been feeling good in the mornings. I think that you should test. And I was like, I'm fine. And I ended up, you know,
it's
after
always
him.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. You're, you know, I've been a little congested in the morning, which makes me gag. It's fine. But in the same essence, like, he wanted me to test because we were about to go on our anniversary trip, and I was like, okay, I'll test just to kind of put him to bed, right? Because he was adamant about it, like, and every day he was just reminding me, like, hey, you should probably do that, so, like, of course, what had happened is when I had tested, it was the night before the day we left. Like, so I had tested, let's say we were leaving on Friday, I tested on Wednesday night, and when I had taken the test, it showed negative, and the control panel didn't show up. So I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's showing negative, it's probably negative, but the control panel, I was going to have to retest anyway. So I went to bed. Casey wakes up the next morning. He checks the test because it's still sitting on the counter because I hadn't thrown it away. And he wakes me up like, are you aware that says that you're pregnant? I'm like, no, it doesn't. The control panel didn't work. Then,
no, it's fine.
when I retested later that morning, I did the digital one, and it, like, in, like, 5 seconds came back.
The
that I was
digital
pregnant.
ones get you, okay?
Well, and it's not like, is it a plus sign? Is it
right?
It's like, it spells it out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It just shows right then and there. There's no denying that you are pregnant, and it's.
And of course, you know, a range of emotion came through with that. And then I think I immediately went to, because for our anniversary trip, we went to Universal Studios and spent time in Daytona. And I was super excited because I'm a big Harry Potter nerd. So of course we go to Universal, and I am sick the entire time. Like, let me tell you, I had a little bit of morning sickness with Natalie, but this past pregnancy was so much harder. I don't know if it's an age thing because, again, we're talking almost a decade later or over a decade later.
Could just be that second child syndrome, too.
It could be. I mean, they always say the second one is a little bit more...
I can vouch for that.
So, I just will tell you what, though, like, it was a doozy going through Universal because it was the perfect storm. I just found out I was pregnant. I think I was also, like, I was super excited and I wanted to tell everybody, but we wanted to keep it hush-hush until we got back from vacation. So we went to Universal Studios. We wake up early in the morning, and I didn't get much sleep. We get on the flight to Orlando, and as we are flying, that motion sickness kicks in. The heat in Orlando was on point. Like, it's, you know, early September, late August, early September. So it's pretty warm in Orlando. And we are walking around Orlando in what should be, like, one of the, like, most exciting times. Like, because I'm, like, going to Universal and seeing, like, Harry Potter, like, the world of.
It's like, dreams come true. Just kidding.
I'm, like, holding my wand. And I'm, like, if there was a spell I could use on myself to stop vomiting, it would be greatly appreciated. I felt so bad because none of the rides that I wanted to ride I could go on because I'm pregnant.
Yep.
And, you know, early on.
Right.
I
can't drink.
I can't drink
anything.
I can't do anything, and I'm dying. Like, I mean, I'm drinking water, but no sooner than I get it down, I'm pushing it back out, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this is awful. We end up...
Oh, there's that morning sickness.
Yes. So, and I hadn't had any symptoms, so I was like, of course, you know, could have found out a week later or something like that, but I'm glad I found out when I did. It was, like, perfect timing, but... Of course, we go to Daytona. We drove from Orlando to Daytona. And, of course, I'm sick the entire car ride. I'm like, this poor guy, Casey's telling the guy next to us on the flight, like, sorry, my wife is pregnant. It's not COVID. Like, thanks, babe. Way to, like, look out.
So
He's
everybody on the airplane knew before anybody else did that you were
basically
pregnant.
Random strangers, yeah, you know. And it's funny, too, because, you know, we told the one guy, there's a security guard who, I mean... You know how it is when you're a mom. You lose all, like, your lower floor, pelvic floor no longer works the way it once did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you cough, you sneeze, you're crossing your legs. You know, if you know, you know.
Oh, no.
If you don't know, lucky you. Kegels, people, Kegels. But I'm sitting there
C-section.
Well, you know, not all of us. I wouldn't have preferred a C-section, but with that, like, I ended up going, like, when we were in Universal, I probably went through my week's worth pair of shorts. Like, I had, like, you know, 5 pairs of shorts. I went through them in one day because, like, I was vomiting the entire time. So with every, like, heave, you tinkle a little bit. It was awful. So the security guard, because I was sitting there vomiting and I was trying not to pee myself, so I sat down while I'm vomiting in my my gift souvenir bag. I took the souvenir out and was using that. Oh. And he's like, "Is she okay?" And Casey's like, "Yeah, she's fine." And then of course we get to Daytona,
freshly pregnant.
I'm sitting there, and we stopped at the gas station. This lady, like, I'm sitting there vomiting in the trash can at the gas station, and she was like, "Oh, honey, I've been there," like, and gives me a water bottle. She was a savior if you're out there listening, or if you ever do decide to listen, because she was also pregnant at the time.
Oh, she got it.
Yeah, she knew immediately. I was like, "Thank you so much. I just found out." Like, she just, I don't know if she had, like, an intuition, because, I mean, I didn't say anything. Yeah. I'm like, I could have been on drugs, but, you know.
Moms can identify other moms going through it.
So I was like, thank you so much.
Yes. So. I was sick. Now, I was sick my literal whole first pregnancy.
Oh, no.
It wasn't just morning sickness. It was morning, evening, I mean, all hours of the day. It got to the point where I couldn't even move in the mornings. We had a routine. Ian would go to get out of bed, and before he would go out, he was a smoker at the time, so before he would get his coffee and cigarette, he would go to the kitchen, grab me saltines and a water or a ginger ale, and bring it to me. And I would literally, before even sitting up in bed, I would have to start nibbling my crackers. And he had a dog at the time. It was a black lab named Max, and she would jump up on the bed and just lick the crumbs that I was dropping. But she knew every morning that was our routine, that I was eating crackers and slowly sipping water before I could ever even sit up in bed just to function. And I remember going to my mother-in-law's, my poor mother-in-law, she only has boys, so she's never had a female in the house that, like, you know, is a whiny, pregnant little. I was very needy. But I just remember being in their hall bathroom and my mother-in-law just coming in and just looking like, "What can I do for you?" And I just was sobbing, like, I just want to be done with this. She was like, "Just a couple more days until you're out of your first trimester." I was counting down the days. I got well into my third trimester and I'm still puking. It was to the point where it was like, come on with it. This is enough.
See, and I feel so bad for people who go through that their entire pregnancy. For me, I mean, I had a pretty easy pregnancy with Nat. I mean, all things considered, I remember having morning sickness like in the first trimester, but other than that, it was pretty smooth sailing. I mean, I was pregnant in the summer. That was my only complaint because you're hot. But with this one, you know, with Amelia, it was just a completely different experience. Yeah. I was sick the entirety of the first trimester. I was constipated like no other. Like, I had never experienced constipation to that degree. Like, it had been weeks, and I'm like asking my doctor, like, what do I do? And of course they're recommending laxatives or stool softeners, and nothing was working. And finally I was like, look, I have to do something about this. And not to be TMI for those of our listeners.
I'm going to explode.
But I mean, it literally, like, your body like almost shuts down. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel sick to my stomach. I feel like I can't eat because I need to have some
like
flow.
There's not just a baby in here.
Right. So finally, not to be TMI, but you had to use an enema, and it's not something we like to talk about, but I'm telling you, that was a godsend in that moment because it was bad. And then in addition to that, like, I had swelling in my third trimester where I couldn't even put on shoes. I mean, even the Crocs, which, you know, you can loosen the little belt thing on the upper part of your foot, I had it on max capacity, and it would still swell above. I mean, it was busting out of max capacity in those things, okay?
Yes. See, I had swelling. With Gabe, I had high blood pressure. Well, it was erratic. It wasn't just high. It was like they couldn't figure out what was causing it to go high, and then it would drop, and then it would skyrocket, like, you know, scary close to stroke levels. And so I was hospitalized numerous times with that. I had gestational diabetes, which sucked because you know how much I love my food. Mm-hmm. I remember crying like my whole third trimester because I couldn't eat what I wanted. I had it down to a science, though, that I knew I was craving Oreos and milk.
Oh, I had that craving with her.
I became lactose intolerant while I was pregnant. Never been lactose intolerant before, but I had it down to a science that I could eat exactly 4 Oreos and 1 sip of milk to finish them off right before bed, and it wouldn't shoot my blood sugar like beyond limits.
You're like finding the exact or precise measurements.
It was bad. I needed it, and then I needed that sip of milk, but that one sip of milk was fine. It wouldn't bother me, but if I drank any more than that, then it was an issue. Oh, but it was so bad. And then with Lawson, I had every like major issue you could. I mean, to the point where Gabe, I was put on bed rest. Lawson, I was put on bed rest, but I was also hospitalized for weeks at a time. I had gallstones, kidney stones, once at the same time. That was fun. Gestational diabetes, high blood pressure, placenta previa. I mean, literally my body was shutting down. I grew very strong, healthy boys, but my body just couldn't handle it. And then it was after having Lawson that my doctor was like, Linz, we got to call it. Like, you're done with 2. Your body can't handle another pregnancy. So that, was fine with me. I was good with the 2 boys. Didn't want to risk having a girl. Don't know how to raise a girl. I can come and
you
see
can visit
your girls.
When I need my boy fix, I come see you. I mean,
but pregnancy was hard. So
I mean, pregnancy is hard, but I mean, I had Oreo cravings, but I think that's like, I think we can both agree that's the best part of pregnancy is that you get to eat what you want. But there's consequences. Like, I had awful heartburn to the point it was acid reflux, and I had to have a daily medication for it. And, Casey has had acid reflux, and this isn't to, like, put anybody out, but I used to tell him, like, all the time, like, oh, that's not too bad. Let me tell you, I apologized profusely when I got it, because you just feel like your esophagus is on fire, like you're a fire-breathing dragon. Yeah. And it's bad enough with the hormones. You are, like...
It's to the point where, like, you're, like, in bed asleep and it's waking you up just because you can feel it burning.
Or you actually vomit because it's so bad. I had that really bad. But, I mean, Oreos, like, chocolate would exacerbate the issue. And that was awful. But then, in addition to that, I can eat what I want. You are limited, right? So I remember when I first got pregnant with your doctor. Like, so for me, the one thing that really upset me when I found out the do's and don'ts of eating, like basically for pregnancy, they had said you have to have well done steak. And I was just like, I am so sad. Like, other things are like no soft cheeses, like feta, and I'm like, that's okay. And then, what is it? Deli meat is another one that you're not supposed to eat because it's processed. And I'm like, that's fine. I can go without my sandwiches or something. And they're like, and well done steak. And I was like, oh, because I'm just like, why would you do that to a perfectly good steak?
Right. Just ruining it. Should be mooing at me.
Anybody who eats their steak well done, more power to you. This is not
we're not your group.
I mean, everybody has their different preferences. It's like eggs, you know what I mean? But I also, I can eat eggs, like, in various capacities, whether it's hard-boiled or scrambled.
As I crack them and put them into my brownie mix. That's about how I like them. Even though I have chickens for their eggs, I don't like eating them.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
I literally force myself to eat eggs just because it's, healthier, I guess, but also, like, because I have chickens, I'm like, I have to.
Well, egg whites are technically healthy, but not necessarily the egg.
I mean, it's better than having, a huge bowl of Reese's Puffs, which is what I would normally go to. So I've been trying with the eggs.
I've recently, like, gotten back onto Captain Crunch. I'm like, there's probably a reason that I shouldn't be eating this. It's high in sugar content. It's very processed, but...
I never ate breakfast until after I had Lawson. My whole, like, body changed after Lawson. My first one, I didn't have stretch marks or anything after Gabe, even though I probably should have, because that child was huge, and I looked like I had a complete, those big, giant beach balls. Mm-hmm. I looked like I had a beach ball under my shirt at the end. My favorite thing to do in my 9th month with Gabe, it was June, was to go in the pool, because it took some of that, like, gravity and that pressure off of, like, having this giant belly, because you feel weightless in the pool. My favorite thing to do, I was constantly, like, calling Ian's aunt or finding anybody that I could that had a pool just so I could go in and like relieve that pressure off my stomach.
Now, did you? So I've seen like some TikTok videos where like they have the guy go up behind the woman and they raise up their stomach. Did you ever use like the little bands that kind of helped?
I probably should have, but no, I never did.
They have so many cool gadgets that I don't recall them having. Maybe I was just like young and broke. I mean, not broke, but I mean, obviously we've grown in both career and things of that nature since.
Oh yeah, I was in two totally different areas. When I had Gabe, you know, struggling parents, first time homeowners, like, I mean, our gift from Ian's aunt and uncle was help with our down payment on our first house. And that was when I was pregnant with Gabe. Lawson, it was like, oh, we're established now. Like, our careers are taking off. Like, that was a less of an anxiety, but then I had more anxiety on top of it, so it was just different.
Well, my thing was, you know, so when I had Nat, it's like me and her dad, like, weren't in the greatest relationship. Obviously, Nat is from a prior relationship, but, you know, you're in your mid-20s, or early 20s for me. I was 22 when I had Nat, but I was working, I was going to school, I was taking care of her as a new mom. You have those anxieties, and I think, like, looking back, like, maybe I didn't have as much anxiety that first time because I didn't have time to focus on the anxiety. You know what I mean?
Constantly go, go, go.
And now that I'm older, not that I don't have time. I mean, like, you know, I'm taking that and focused on her, but I think I'm just a little bit more nervous. But, I mean, we just bought our house, like, 2 years ago, so we're not necessarily first-time home buyers, like, freshly new anymore, but I mean, we are more established. I'm married now. I have her and, you know, her older sister, and you're kind of like, I've done this before, but again, it circles back to you forget after so long. The new gadgets that are out that help as well, like, they have the little wrap thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think mine's a Bia baby. It's actually over there. And I tried it out, and don't get me wrong, I like it. But it's not very intuitive. Unpopular opinion out there for anybody who's using the wraps.
You have to know how to, like...
Yeah, I think there's another one called, like, a boba wrap. But you have to know. And if you don't know, you're kind of, like, watching these YouTube videos over and over to get the hang of it. And even then, you're like, is this secure? Because, like...
Right.
I'm used to, like, having to use my arms.
My kids were just so huge that anytime I tried to use a wrap, I felt like they were going to fall out. So...
Even when they're small, you feel that way.
Ian got on and got one of, like, the baby carriers, like the baby Bjorn thing, and he cracked me up because he's always like, let me strap that thing on. So you get this, you know, 6'4", heavily bearded man walking around with a baby on his chest, and he's just like, he could have cared less. He rocked that.
Well, yeah, and guys aren't going to be caught dead in the wrap typically. Like, my husband was like, that thing does not look very intuitive and does not look very safe. Whereas with the carriers, because we have one of those, but of course she's still maybe a little bit too little to be in it because they have to be at least 8 pounds. And she was born at 6 pounds, 11 ounces. And when we left the hospital, she was 6'2". So she had a little bit of, you know, making up to do in the weight department. Not making up, but she had some weight to gain. And now that she's going into her 6 week, like, we'll have our next appointment here in 2 weeks, and hopefully she's going to be able to be in that carrier, because, I mean, I will use the wrap when needed, but I'm kind of like, I can't wait to use the carrier, because I feel like it might be a little bit more secure.
Yes.
But...
Now, what's the one thing, though, that you feel has been... maybe from, like, you know, one of your baby showers and things, something that you thought you would use that you haven't used?
For my baby shower, that's a great question. I would have to say probably, because we got a lot of things that we wouldn't use right this moment. But...
something that surprised you, anything?
I do like the little bottle warmer that
they never had those when I had my kids.
Really? I think that they did, but they were expensive. You know how things are. When they first come out, like, one of the things that I really wanted that I was like, I'm kind of glad that I mean, there's times I'm still like, I would have liked to try it, but it was expensive, so I didn't, because it was like priced out. Like, but for me, it was the little sock. I can't remember what they call them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like the outlet socks.
Outlet, yeah. So I was like, that's a really ingenious idea. For those of you who aren't familiar with what the outlet is, it's a sock that goes on their foot and it measures, like, it like records their heartbeat, so you know if like something's wrong. You know, you have different things that you worry about, including SIDS and stuff like that early on. But I was like, oh, that's really nifty because, you know, it beats like going up to them every 5 minutes to make sure that their little chest is rising.
Sitting outside their door.
Right. So
listening to them breathe.
Staring at them awkwardly. And when they open their eyes, they're probably like, whoa. But I would have liked it. And I heard mixed reviews on it. Some people are like, it's great, but I know a friend of mine, her son, they have it for their son. And she's like, it's great, except when they find a way to kick it off. And it makes your heart drop because I guess their child kicked it off. And of course, it flatlines basically. So you're like,
it's supposed to help your anxiety, but then it'll throw you straight into an anxiety attack.
Right. So I was like, and realistically, it's great for those people who maybe are putting their baby in the nursery.
Right.
Whereas, I'm doing a bedside bassinet right now. So, I mean, I'll still check her because
she's in like a milk coma right now.
She is, for those of you who can't. I wish I could like angle the camera to see her, but she has her binky half hanging out her mouth and she's just out. She likes to be warm, fed, and she likes to be entertained for a little while and then she goes back to sleep, which I'm okay with that because she gets a little bit more awake every day. It feels like she stays up a little bit more.
So that my ADD, I'm all over the place, but the one thing I remember thinking that I was going to like use a ton of, and then it shocked me when I think I used it one time. Don't come for me. It was the diaper genie.
Really? I like the diaper genie, but the reason we haven't used it very much is because it's in her nursery, and now we're like in the common area or in our bedroom.
Right, and I think maybe that was kind of what it was for us too, is like we put it in the nursery, but my thing was like, if I did change a diaper, because I was really, really spoiled, I'm not even going to try to lie. Like, my husband, if he was home, he was changing the diaper. Like, that was the one thing. I think he felt like I was under a lot of pressure breastfeeding and everything else. So he's like, that's the one thing I can, like,
help with.
Yes. So he was like, I got the diapers. But when I did change a diaper, it was just like, wrap it up quick and, toss it. And I never just, I hate to say it, but still to this day, the diaper genie is in my crossface, and there's probably like 3 packs of like the little like inserts that go in it because we just never. I know, but we never go down there, so it's like I just forget about it.
I was about to say, I think that the one thing that
I never used it.
Now that I've thought about it, so we got a really nice, like it's like an Arsenal diaper bag. Love it. It's great if you're going on like a hike, a long journey. I don't know, like it's an Arsenal, like it has one of those, and this is like really popular right now. It has one of those extendable changing spaces, which would be great if you're going to the zoo or if you're going to
a long day trip,
a weekend trip where you're not sure if you're going to have access to like a changing area. Or even if you like to have it like on the changing station, but again, like it's going to be like awkwardly like off the side because the rest of the bag is with it. But I had to get an alternative one that's just more for like your quick runs, your grocery store, picking up your kid from day camp or something like that. Because I'm like, I just need something to hold some diapers and some wipes and maybe an extra like, the first time around I think we were like packing the entire house anytime we left. Whereas this time I'm like, as long as we don't like break down, like
some
we have
diapers,
everything.
a couple of outfits, we're good.
Yeah, I'm like, in the event that like we break down on the side of the road, I might have an extra, a bottle just in case. Like, and I'm still breastfeeding, so I mean that's not even like
it does come in
factor.
handy.
But at the same time, I'm like, you never know what could happen, so you want to at least have some emergency stuff. But I'm like, her dad will come pick us up on the side of the road. But
I'm not worried about it these days.
That's like the one thing. But aside from that, I mean, I think that, we as women all experience different things. Like, so although my pregnancy was easy the first time, difficult the second. We all experience different things. I mean, sometimes we have the support that we need, sometimes we don't. And I think that is a contributing factor. Like, I felt like this time around I had the support that I needed.
Yeah.
Whereas the first time I didn't. Like, I had family support, but maybe not, like, significant other support. And that does make a huge difference. And how we feel, how we handle it, because I mean, I can't imagine going through my second pregnancy without the support from my husband that I had. He's been great. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't divorce me, all things considered. I mean, I was a mess.
I was just bragging about your husband to my husband, just to let you know.
Oh, really? My husband's pretty great, for those of you who don't know. He's like the most calm, patient man I've ever met, but I mean, I'd love to hear other people's stories as well. And that's one thing that's great about this podcast is, I mean, we're going to be talking about not only our experiences, but I mean, eventually I'm going to have guests come on. So I have one of the first people I have lined up is Casey's. It's my niece too, but she's in her, late 20s, early 30s, and she has two under two. So I'd love to hear her perspective. Like, I mean, having them so close together, like how that, like, because your body
is it easier? Is it harder?
I know, because I mean, like me and Casey, all things considered, I mean, I think I'm done with having kids, but if we were to have another, I would want it to be pretty quickly because of my age. Not, I know people can get pregnant into their 40s, but I just don't want to be that old. Like, when my kids are grown, and not only that, but it wreaks havoc on your body. Yeah. It does. And the older you get, I do truly believe the harder it is. And I applaud those people who have back-to-back kids, like, into their 40s or multiple kids. Like, I mean, traditional households right now, I think the average is, like, 2 kids. And I know people who have 6, 7, 10 kids, and I applaud them. I don't know how you have sanity at that point.
No. I mean, just now, even as my kids are older, trying to get them to their, after-school activities or to a friend's house, like, my husband and I being on opposite shifts, like, I don't know how we would ever have any more kids. So it's like, I have a lot of respect for parents who are doing it all with little kids or with a ton of kids, because I'm struggling.
Well,
struggle bus over here.
Tons of kids. One of the other people I would like to get on here is somebody who has twins to talk about their experience. I mean, I know my cousin, for instance, she had twins. Now, it was her first child too. Like, so, for me, it's like, man, it was hard because I was young and everything, just having one. I can't imagine, like, you don't have any idea how to raise one child, let alone 2. Right. So, like, what was your experience with that? Or people who have one and then have that opposite where you have 2 and it's like, is it easier because you still have one? And it's just like, is it harder because now you have double the amount? How did that factor in? And for those who've had twins the first go around, is it kind of like you don't know any better? You know what I mean? Like, this is a norm for you because you never had experience with just one.
Yeah. You're kind of setting that bar.
So, but, I'd love to hear other people's stories. If you have stories about, like, how you found out you were pregnant or how your birth was, I'd love to hear that, from our viewers. Now, we're super appreciative of everybody who's liked, commented, subscribed, supported us on any of the social media platforms. We're currently on Spotify and YouTube, and we're going to be, slowly getting into other channels as well, including like Apple, Amazon, Google. Again, as we stated, we're not AV people. We don't pretend to be, but we will be putting the podcast on other platforms for you to listen and enjoy. The next episode that we will have will probably dive more into talking about, what we experience, just with our kids currently. And then in addition to that, talk about other things like embarrassing stories that our kids have put us in or how we've embarrassed them. If you have something like that, we'd love to hear that. Maybe read some stories from you guys. But thank you for tuning in. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
Sounds good. See you soon.
See you soon. I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
We can look back at it, see how we like it.
Oh. I tried to keep my ADD in, but...
I think, because I didn't want to make it too long, but I also wanted to make it more conversational based. Oh, crap. That's what I need to do. Hold on. We're going to minimize this. We're going to exit out of this.